We are going to be investigating the world of abstraction today as we consider how can we play with some ideas to create in a more fun, abstract, loose type of way. Which is an interesting thing for students and people to understand because it is sometimes hard to know where are we getting our ideas, where is it coming from, and how can we practice it ourselves. So abstraction definitely is an interesting place for us to go. Hi everyone, my name is Krajewski, art teacher, artist, and overall creative person. When I first really got into my own artistic voice, I started by creating some abstractions because I wasn't really sure what to do. And I would fill pages with bright colors and splatter paint, I'd call it pepper, and all sorts of different designs just because I didn't have to think too hard about what I was making. And abstraction can be a really great way to just get some ideas out and get students and people comfortable with the art of creating more than needing to look like something. So friends, I'm gonna take you through the process of how I like to create abstract art and how you can actually do this with your students. So I usually have a couple pieces of artwork going on at the same time. That way it doesn't make me feel like I have to have one perfect exact artwork like I'm expecting, but of the four that I'm working on, then I can usually find something that I really like by the end. So I'm going to be creating four and I'll be making them kind of mini because that's a great way to not feel so overwhelmed by needing to be perfect. And we're going to work with kind of painting some underpainting shapes, working with a little collage, maybe some splatter, some finer details, and then my favorite part, which is actually titling the artwork. So again, the nice thing about having multiple pieces going on at one time is it helps you to alleviate that stress of needing it to be something. For example, I was liking the way this one was looking and then I added the blue and I'm thinking, maybe it's not my favorite. But as I add more, things can change. So we're just looking to fill the background with, again, 3, 4-ish different shapes. And now we're gonna go back in with some collage and I'll be starting to cut some papers. I have all sorts of painted paper, recycled paper, things that I collect and save that I can start cutting some shapes that I can attach to the top of these abstractions. So when I'm looking for papers that I can use to collage, I've got a whole bunch of them. There's something very helpful about having collage pieces as part of these abstractions for me personally, because I feel like it gives me this level of play where I don't have to commit, right? So I can move things amongst different artworks. Ooh, it's like see it against other colors. I can adjust and like change completely what my thought process is. I can twist my papers. So this kind of abstraction helps me to start seeing some compositions actually come to life. Then I simply glue them all down. So I'm going to go back in with a couple different drawing tools or a couple different other materials and start doing some smaller patterns on top to kind of build a little bit of cohesion. Also, friendly tip, try flipping all of your artworks in different directions at the beginning so that you're not tied to the direction that you've actually been creating it in. So I'm going to move all of my artworks around just so I can see it from different angles. Maybe add any final little line drawings or details that I feel like I might need. Then it comes to surprisingly my favorite part, which is titling it. And then I actually just put that title just within the artwork to look at something and think, what does this remind me of? Does it even have a meaning or a reference, or can it just be what it is? For example, when I was doing this one, I felt like it was just a lot of stacked, like wasn't really hitting me, and I realized I needed to add some splatter to it because that always just makes me feel better and makes me feel like it's a little bit more fun. So it might have a title that has to do something with just having fun. That's as simple as that. I know you're all anxiously awaiting, what did I title them? What did I come up with? So I'll share. This one is called Put a Little Fun in It. This one I titled My Dream Backpack, because if I had a backpack that was those colors and those patterns, chef's kiss. This one is called A Spot to Rest. I'm just seeing like the shadow here a little bit, seeing a little bit more. I don't know, just feels like a spot to rest. And this one is called The Sun Finds a Way. A little addition of that yellow. Keeping it simple, my friends. Let's be real, abstract art is difficult to grasp even for adults. When they see something at a museum or see a piece of artwork, they often think, well, I could paint that. So breaking down abstraction can help to cultivate some interesting conversations around what makes something abstraction and where might it come from and pull from real life. A great place to find some resources about abstraction is in our Flex curriculum, of which you'll find lesson plans, resources, videos, all sorts of stuff to encourage that conversation between you and your students. students. Of the many things you'll find in Flex, one is this What is Abstract art poster that you can put up in your classroom or post on the board to start that conversation about what makes something abstract art. Another great resource is this one about 3 artists who use abstract symbols, and this can be a great way to cultivate some conversation about why artists use the symbols that they do. Here in Flex, we also have this interesting resource about abstract versus non-objective art, which is a great way to continue the conversation about what makes something non-objective, where it's simply maybe shapes, lines, patterns, and when can that abstraction sort of be a reference to something from real life. Similar to how you saw in mine, I'm even bringing in some examples of light or shape, or referencing something to help pull into a little bit of that reality, even though it may not be directly connected. You can see how some abstractions actually reference things in a little bit more of a direct way, but have some kind of changes to the ways that they look so they don't look photorealistic. All of these resources can be found within the Flex curriculum, which we'll link below. In Flex, it's super easy to bookmark things and save them for later, and also just to favorite the things that you like most so you can find them more easily down the line. Okay, let me just, okay, yep, it's fine. How do you think you can experiment with some abstract art? Again, both in your personal practice or with your students to get them thinking a little bit outside the box. What materials could you use? And what kind of titles might you think of? And of course, make sure you like and subscribe to these videos so you can see more tip videos just like this. See you later, bye!